At 4:07 a.m. local time, the Zagros Mountains are utterly silent except for the low hum of 4 modified MH-47 Chinooks flying nap of the earth, their rotor blades slapping the thin, cold air just 40 feet above jagged rock formations. 7,000 meters below the granite peak known locally as Kuh-e-Hazar, buried under 200 feet of reinforced ferroconcrete and quartz-infused aggregate, sits the Natanz Deep Storage Annex, a facility that didn't officially exist in any Western intelligence briefing until 72 hours ago. Inside that tomb of rock, 27 kilograms of highly enriched uranium hexafluoride gas are being staged for final movement to a secret centrifuge cascade, hidden deeper in the calm salt domes. 34 U.S. Army Rangers from the 75th Regiment Task Force Red Hand are inbound. Yet they number less than 3 dozen. The facility is guarded by a full company of the 65th Airborne Special Forces Brigade of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, 160 elite light infantry troops who have been on high alert rotation since the Damascus embassy bombing. The Rangers have exactly 14 minutes from wheels down to breach the blast door, seize the uranium, rig the mountain to collapse, and exfiltrate. If the gas cylinders are moved through the secondary tunnel on the eastern slope before the outer cordon is set, they vanish into the Iranian plateau. If the Quds Force reinforcements stationed in Isfahan are scrambled, those Chinooks are flying into a hornet's nest of Russian-made Panzer S-1 air defense systems. And if the Rangers trip the internal thermite failsafes wired to the storage vaults, it's that the entire mountain becomes a radioactive crater, taking Task Force Red Hand with it. The operation is designated Gothic Serpent Redux. The briefing at Al-Udaid Air Base had been explicit. This is not a raid. This is a seizure. They are not blowing the uranium in place. They are carrying it out at a full sprint while the mountain burns behind them. The target is buried beneath 3 distinct security layers. Layer 1 is the perimeter patrols on the surface, light vehicles, thermal cameras bolted to rock outcroppings, and a guard rotation that changes every 4 hours precisely on the hour. Layer 2 is the main entrance tunnel, a horizontal shaft carved into the west face, wide enough for 2 Kamaz trucks to pass, guarded by a reinforced bunker with overlapping fields of fire from 2 DSK heavy machine guns. Layer 3 is the inner sanctum itself, the transfer hall, where the uranium flasks are currently resting on hydraulic dollies, awaiting the morning shift change at 6 a.m. when the transport crew arrives to move them deeper into the range. The Rangers are inserting via 2 separate entry points. Assault Element 1, callsign Scythe, will fast rope directly onto the western helipad, a concrete slab cut into the mountainside just above the main tunnel entrance, and hit the bunker head-on. Simultaneously, Breach Element 2, callsign Anvil, will land on the eastern slope and enter through the secondary ventilation at it, a narrow, unguarded maintenance shaft that snakes downward for 300 meters before intersecting the transfer hall's air circulation system. It's a pincer movement. Scythe draws the fire and the attention. Anvil slides in quiet through the back door and snatches the prize. At 4:10 a.m. inside the lead Chinook designated Voodoo 1, Captain Marcus Webb watches the green chem lights of the terrain-following radar bleed across his NVG monocle. The cabin smells of CLP gun oil, sweat, and the metallic tang of oxygen from the jump bottles. His men are packed in 2 rows, knees to knees, 50 pounds of ceramic plates and ammunition strapped to their chests. The ramp gunner, Sergeant First Class Mendez, has his hands wrapped around the spade grips of an M134 minigun, scanning the black void below for any sign of a manpad launch signature. Webb's wrist-mounted Garmin tactical GPS shows 4 minutes to the release point. The pilots are flying blind, yet reliant on a preloaded terrain contour matching algorithm because active radar emissions would light up every Iranian electronic warfare station between here and Bushehr. The only thing keeping them off the rocks is the skill of the 161st SOAR Night Stalker pilots and a sliver of moon obscured by high cirrus clouds. The wind is picking up. Crosswinds in this valley can gust to 40 knots without warning, turning a fast rope insertion into a meat grinder. Webb keys his intra-squad radio. 30 seconds, weapons hot. We hit the deck, we own the LZ, no hesitation. At 4:13 a.m., the bunker on the western slope is quiet. 2 IRGC soldiers are playing a game of backgammon on a wooden crate just inside the sandbagged entrance. Yaus, the heavy machine gun in the south nest, is manned by a conscript who is more focused on staying warm than scanning the horizon. He doesn't see the black shape of Voodoo 1 flare up from behind the ridgeline. He doesn't hear it either, not until the rotor wash hits the concrete pad like a physical blow, scattering dust and loose gravel. The first he knows of the assault is the blinding white flash of the helicopter's landing lights slamming into his dilated pupils. By the time his finger finds the butterfly trigger of the DSHK, Mendez has already walked a 4-second burst from the minigun across the sandbag emplacement. The rate of fire is 3,000 rounds per minute. The tracers look like a solid laser beam of red light stitching through concrete, sand, and flesh. The DSHK is silenced instantly, its barrel blown askew. In fast, ropes drop from both side doors like black snakes uncoiling. Rangers slide down, the friction burning through the leather palms of their gloves. The first 4 boots hit Iranian soil. 2 Rangers sprint left toward the bunker entrance, M4A1 carbines up. IR lasers invisible to the naked eye but blazing bright green in their optics. The bunker door is a slab of steel-reinforced oak. The point man, Specialist DeMarco, doesn't slow down. He puts a breaching shotgun slug into the lock housing and kicks the door inward with the full weight of his body armor. The concussion of the flashbang that follows is swallowed by the sound of 2 distinct rifle cracks. The backgammon game is over. The IRGC squad room is cleared in 11 seconds. 4 hostiles down. Scythe has the front door. At 4:15 a.m., 3 kilometers away on the eastern face. The wind is worse. The secondary Chinook, Voodoo 2, is hovering over a rock-scree slope that is angled at nearly 45 degrees. There is no pad here, just a narrow ledge of crumbling limestone. The ramp lowers onto nothing but air and darkness. The men of Anvil don't fast rope. They step off the edge into the void, relying on the belay lines anchored to the cabin roof. Captain Reyes, the breach commander, is the 3rd man down. His boots slide on loose gravel and he catches himself on a jagged outcropping, the sharp rock gouging a line through his Crye-Precision knee pad. The ventilation at it is exactly where the satellite imagery said it would be, a dark, square hole in the mountain face covered by a rusted grate. Sergeant First Class Okonkwo, the team's demolitions expert, is already on it. Yeah, and he slaps a strip of flex linear charge across the 4 anchor bolts. "Fire in the hole," he whispers, the words flat and professional. The pop is surprisingly quiet, more of a sharp hiss as the shape charge vaporizes the steel bolts. The grate swings outward with a groan. Air rushes out of the shaft, warm, stale, and smelling faintly of ozone and machine oil. They are going in. The inside of the adit is claustrophobic. It's not a hallway. It's a service tube barely 4 feet high and 3 feet wide, lined with rusted conduit pipes and a thick layer of dust. The Rangers have to crouch walk, moving in a staggered column, weapons pushed forward. The only light is the pale green wash of their PVS-31s. The sound inside the tube is a nightmare of amplified echoes, the scrape of ceramic plates on rock, the rhythmic thump of their own heartbeats, yeast in the distant mechanical hum of the mountain's life support systems. The tunnel descends steeply. After 100 meters, it splits. Left leads to a dead-end electrical substation. Right leads to the main ventilation trunk. Reyes checks the inertial navigation unit strapped to his forearm. They are on the clock. At 4:20 a.m., Scythe has control of the surface bunker, but the alarm has been raised. Inside the mountain, at the transfer hall level, red emergency lights are spinning. Iranian Quds Force operators are grabbing their weapons and donning body armor. They don't know where the breach is coming from, but they know someone is in the house. At 4:22 a.m., Webb's element pushes past the bunker and into the main vehicle tunnel. The tunnel is enormous, 30 feet wide, carved out of solid granite. It's lit by long rows of fluorescent tubes that flicker as the backup generators struggle to stabilize the load. 200 meters down the slope, they see headlights. A pair of Toyota Hilux Technicals, each mounted with a PKM machine gun in the bed, are roaring up the ramp toward them. Webb doesn't call for air support. There's no time. He designates targets. Left truck DeMarco, right truck, mine. 2M72. Law rockets come off shoulder simultaneously. The backblast washes over the tunnel walls in a wave of fire and smoke. The rockets cover the distance in less than a second. The first Hilux vanishes in a fireball that lifts it off its tires and slams it into the ceiling. The second truck swerves, the driver's face a mask of raw terror, before the second rocket turns the cab into a twisted cage of burning metal. Although the path forward is blocked by flaming wreckage, Webb's voice cuts through the net. Over the debris! Push, push, push! The Rangers scramble over smoking hoods and shattered glass, boots crunching on hot steel. At 4:24 a.m., Anvil reaches the ventilation trunk junction. The duct is massive here, a vertical shaft that drops down into the main air handler room. Reyes attaches a D-ring descender to the steel cable Okonkwo has anchored into the rock. He goes first, rappelling down into total darkness, past the spinning blades of a massive industrial fan that has been switched off due to the pressure differential alarm triggered by the open adit. He lands in a crouch on the grated floor of the air handler room. The room is 90 degrees and deafening, filled with the roar of pumps and the hiss of coolant lines. Through the grimy plexiglass window on the far wall, he sees them. The transfer hall. The room is the size of a high school gymnasium, and there, in the center, illuminated by a single white spotlight, are 4 polished steel cylinders. They look deceptively simple, like large propane tanks, but the yellow and magenta trefoil warning symbols, stenciled on their sides, tell the real story. That's the uranium hexafluoride. That's the payload. The fight for the transfer hall erupts at 4:28 a.m. Scythe has breached the main inner blast door using a thermal lance that turns the steel bolts to molten white slag. The Rangers pour into the cavernous hall just as the IRGC defenders on the upper catwalk open up with a volley of suppressing fire. The sound inside the rock chamber is physically painful, a continuous, overlapping crack of 5.56 and 7.62 rounds echoing off the hard walls. Tracers crisscross the open space, ricocheting off the granite floor in showers of sparks. The Rangers move with lethal efficiency. They don't stand and fight, they flow. 2-man teams leapfrog forward, one man firing high at the catwalk to keep heads down, while the other sprints for cover behind the hydraulic lift dollies. The uranium cylinders are right there, just 15 meters away, but the fire from the catwalk is intensifying. More Quds Force soldiers are appearing from the back offices, moving with the discipline of men who know they are defending their nation's crown jewels. At 4:30 a.m., Reyes sees his opportunity. While the IRGC is focused entirely on the frontal assault from the main tunnel, Anvil emerges from the air handler room like ghosts. Yes, they kick open the maintenance door and find themselves directly behind the IRGC firing line on the catwalk. The defenders are leaning over the railing, shooting down at Webb's Rangers. They never see the threat behind them. The gunfire from Anvil's suppressed rifles is a series of rapid mechanical clicks, barely audible over the roar of the main gunfight. It takes exactly 4 seconds to clear the catwalk. The IRGC fire slackens instantly. Reyes slaps a fresh magazine into his rifle and yells over the command net. "Scythe, catwalk is clear. Move to objective. We have your 6. At 4:33 a.m., Webb's team reaches the dollies. The senior NCO, Sergeant Major Cole, is a man who has spent 20 years handling sensitive site exploitation. He doesn't rush. He inspects the cylinders, running a Geiger counter over the seals. Steady at 200 millirads. No breach. We're good to move. The cylinders are heavy, each weighing nearly 80 pounds, but they are designed to be transported. The Rangers hook the cylinders to their assault harnesses with carabiner clips, spreading the load across the team. 4 men are now carrying the material the entire operation was built around. The clock is still ticking. The extraction is always the hardest part. The sound of jet engines is faint but growing in the distance. Iranian Air Force Sukhoi Su-24s from the Tactical Air Base at Hamadan have been scrambled. They are 6 minutes out. At 4:35 a.m., Okonkwo is moving fast, slapping C4 satchel charges against the main support pillars of the transfer hall. He isn't trying to nuke the mountain, he's trying to seal the tomb. The charges are configured for a directed overpressure blast. They will cut the granite pillars and bring 300 tons of rock down on the centrifuge assembly lines located on the sub-levels below. The timer is set for 90 seconds. "Fire in the hole! 90 seconds! Move!" The shout is primal, carrying over the radio and echoing down the tunnel. The Rangers don't walk, they run. The run back up the vehicle tunnel is a grueling uphill sprint under 80 pounds of uranium and 60 pounds of gear. Their lungs burn from the thin air and the acrid smoke of the burning Hilux, wrecks they have to clamber over again. The walls are shaking. A low rumble starts deep in the earth, a subsonic growl that vibrates through the soles of their boots. At 4:37 a.m., the timer hits 0. The world ends inside the mountain. Yet the C4 detonates with a sharp, concussive crack that feels like being punched in the chest by a giant. The sound in the confined tunnel is a physical wall of pressure that slams into the fleeing Rangers, staggering them. Behind them, the transfer hall ceiling collapses. A rolling cloud of pulverized granite dust, thick as a blizzard, chases them up the tunnel at 60 miles an hour. It swallows the light, swallows the sound, and swallows the evidence of the secret facility. The Rangers burst out of the main entrance into the cold, pre-dawn air just as the dust cloud billows out behind them, coating them in a layer of gray grit. The Chinooks are already on the deck, rotors spinning at full RPM, ramp lights glowing red in the dust haze. There is no time for a head count. The crew chiefs are screaming. Them hauling men by the drag handles of their plate carriers up the ramp. The last man aboard is Captain Webb, clutching one of the uranium cylinders like it's the winning football at the Super Bowl. The pilot of Voodoo 1 pulls pitch violently. The helicopter lurches upward, the engine screaming as it claws for altitude. Through the open ramp, the Rangers watch the mountain shrink beneath them. A pillar of black smoke is rising from the east vent shaft, but the facility is dead, sealed, crushed. The Quds Force's best-kept secret is a tomb. The flight out is not safe. The radar warning receivers in the cockpit are screaming with search radars from ground-based mobile SAMs attempting to acquire a lock. The 160th pilots are dropping flares and chaff like confetti, banking the big Chinook hard left and right, scraping the valley floors to stay below the radar horizon. The tension in the cabin is unbearable. Men are breathing hard, checking weapons, and staring at the 4 steel cylinders now lashed to the center of the cargo floor. They are glowing faintly under the UV lights of the chemical detection strips, a soft, eerie Cherenkov blue. They have 27 kilograms of Iran's nuclear future in the belly of the aircraft, and 1,000 Iranian soldiers want it back. At 4:44 a.m., Voodoo 1 clears the Zagros range and drops below 50 feet over the waters of the Persian Gulf. The electronic warfare threat falls away. They are in international airspace. The threat has shifted from surface-to-air missiles to Iranian fast attack craft. But the U.S. Navy is out there, waiting just over the horizon. The mission clock stops. The seizure took 17 minutes. 34 Rangers entered the mountain. 34 Rangers left it. The uranium hexafluoride gas is now on a direct vector to the nuclear forensics lab at Los Alamos National Laboratory, where it will be matched against the IAEA inventory logs and expose a 5-year secret enrichment program. The mountain at Natanz is a smoldering, collapsed void of crushed centrifuges and shattered aspirations. The IRGC is still digging through the rubble, looking for survivors, and trying to understand how a company of their best operators lost the most important battle they never knew they were fighting until it was already over. The cost of failure was a mushroom cloud over Tel Aviv. The price of success was 17 minutes of controlled, violent chaos in the dark. And the men of the 75th Ranger Regiment are already preparing for the next one.